Found in numberless sizes and forms, the monsters of Greek mythology survived for thousands of years in many different stories which preserve the memory of a collective community. They educated the Athenians and sometimes even used as political means of education. They were effective for one simple reason: they were entertaining. As I always say about Greek mythology, if it's not fun, it's not functional. Monstrosity should not be confused with ugliness. Although in modern thought the meaning of the word is associated with the abominable or the hideous, it is not the same with the mythical traditions of the Greeks. Monstrous is anything that does not resemble the usual, the common form. It is not about the unnatural. After all, what is natural? Natural is what is usual or common in different places and different times. One ought to be very conscious of the use of such terms when one deals with Greek mythology. Even the Greeks are careful when categorizing monstrosity. In most cases, they are aware of the fact that many of the Greek monsters, at least, are children of Gaia, the earth, or other gods, the same gods who bore men and women. This makes monsters part of the physical world, just like men and women are part of this world, and as such, they are part of the stories of men throughout the centuries. I mentioned beauty as the least useful factor to define monstrosity. Beauty is not only in the eye of the beholder, but it is a value that transcends familiar forms. A man can recognize beauty in other members of his own species, but he can also define a deer or a cat or a horse as beautiful. Beauty is thus the epitome of idealized characteristics of each specific form at the utmost level. Subsequently, the absence of the perfect or idealized characteristics, usually socially and culturally implanted as standards of recognition, constitutes monstrosity. If beauty is the culmination of idealized standards, monstrosity is the ultimate deviation from these standards. Even this does not suffice to define monstrosity for the Greeks, who love to prove how permeable limits and definitions are in general. For example, the beautiful winged horse, Pegasus, is as much a monster as the next ugly creature, let's say the one-eyed Cyclops Polyphemus in the Odyssey. It does not matter whether you have an extra pair of wings or one eye less than usual. If your form transgresses the standards of its kind, then you are a monster. If one observes closely all the monsters of Greek imagination, one concludes that there is not one single monster that does bear at least one singular recognizable characteristic, which refers to some real form in nature. The human mind is not able to invent something that does not derive from human experience. Thus, a centaur may be monstrous, but he is half man. An animal can be monstrous just because it is bigger than usual, or it has some unusual characteristic, like the lion of Nemea with the arrow-proof hide. A ghost or a demon can be monstrous because it is full of unnatural characteristics, but it looks like a man or a woman in form. In order to create monsters, Greek mythology can combine forms or distort forms, but it cannot invent forms. Imagination is applied to create a world of transgression from the ordinary, which is coherent and immediate because it is formed with ordinary elements, only messed about, exaggerated, or distorted. Beautiful curly hair, seductive eyes, luscious lips. A beautiful woman can be attractive, dangerously attractive. One look at her and one can stand mesmerized as if one is made out of stone. But what happens when this woman can literally turn you into stone? This is a story of a woman with such powers. This is the story of Medusa. Medusa is one of the three sisters known in antiquity as the Gorgons. Their ancestry is rather confusing. Sometimes their parents are Phorkys and Kitto, and sometimes it is Echidna and Typhon. Out of the three, Medusa was the only mortal one. They are always described as having protruding fangs coming out of their mouths. They had long curly hair and golden wings. They lived in a faraway land behind the ocean, perhaps Libya. Perseus had to overcome them and kill Medusa, the only mortal one, but for this he had to use special assistance from the gods. An adamant sickle was given to him by Zeus, a special bag to put the head once he had cut it, and also a cap that made the bearer invisible. It was given to him by Hades. He attacked the Medusa when she was asleep, and in order to avoid her petrifying gaze, he looked at her through the reflection on his very shiny shield. He used the golden sickle or adamant sickle to cut off her head. When the head was cut off from the severed body, there sprang forth a giant named Chrysaor, the gold one, and a beautiful winged horse called the Pegasus. Snakes are scary. They are strange to look at, they're fast, they are slimy, they're poisonous, they are dangerous. To face one of them is terrible. Can you imagine facing 9 of them or perhaps 100 of them? This is the story of such a monster faced by Hercules during one of his labors. This is the story of the Hydra of Lerna. King Eurystheus sent Hercules to another mission impossible. This time he had to face a monstrous creature with 9 snake heads, huge ones, that plagued the lame or swamp of Lerna. Hercules went there and he found the monster. It was one of the terrible children of Echidna. Her breath was poisonous. No one could go near it because even by breathing there he would die. The blood of the Hydra was also poisonous. If one dared to wound it or cut it, then the mere touch of the blood would cause instant death. Hercules was protected by the lion skin, which was impenetrable, and he attacked the monster and started chopping off the heads with his sword. to his dismay, he found out that every time he cut off one head, 2 new heads sprang forth in its stead. He did not know what to do until his constant helper Athena came and whispered the secret to him. Take Iolaus, your faithful nephew, and have him cauterize the cat heads. So every time Hercules cut off one throat, with a torch, Iolaus cauterized the head so they stopped growing back. The last head that remained was immortal. That could not be killed. So Hercules took a big rock and just put it above the head, and there it still lies, causing the area to be still full of swamps and still water. Story has it that when he was fighting the heads, Hera, jealous that he saw him winning the monster, she sent a massive crab to bite his foot and distract him. Hercules crushed the crab under his massive foot, and upset, Hera took the dead body of the Hydra and turned it into a constellation, the Hydra, and right next to it is the constellation of the crab, the Cancer. The wooded plains of Thessaly gave birth to some of the finest horses of Greece. Perhaps some of them even took part at the campaign of Alexander the Great. There, people bred horses, rode horses, were associated with horses, and it was the perfect place to give birth to the myth of a beast which is half horse and half man, rider and animal blend and fused in one monstrous form. Centaurs are liminal creatures. They are between two worlds, between two natures, and perhaps the ultimate symbolism is the untamed power of nature. Pirithous was the son of Ixion. When he married the princess Hippodamia, he threw a very big banquet, a very big party where many big heroes like Hercules were invited. The centaurs also felt that they had to be invited because they were distantly related to the princess, but they could not handle their drink. They started drinking and drinking and drinking, and at the end they were more than merry, they were drunk. They attacked the bride and the friends of the bride, and they tried to rape them and steal their women. A great battle began, and Hercules took part of it like many other heroes, and many centaurs were killed. Unfortunately and accidentally, one of the arrows of Hercules struck the good centaur Chiron. Chiron had no chance. The arrows of Hercules were dipped in the blood of Hydra, which was poisonous, and the mere touch with the pointed tip of the arrows meant instant death. Chiron could not be killed, and since he was immortal, Zeus granted him the relief of death by giving him mortality, and he took the immortality of Chiron and gave it to Prometheus. Another accidental death was the death of centaur Pholus. When Hercules was chasing the wild boar of Erymanthus, he stopped in the forest and he was offered hospitality by the good centaur Pholus. Pholus was the winekeeper of all centaurs. Hercules asked for a drink of wine, and Pholus said that he was afraid of opening the barrel lest the other centaurs sensed it. Hercules insisted. The laws of hospitality demanded that he was offered something like wine, and they opened the barrel. The rest of the centaurs smelled it and attacked the cave of Pholus. A very big battle began, and Hercules with his poisonous arrows killed most of them. Pholus took one of the arrows out of one centaur, and he admired how could such a small item like an arrow kill such a big beast like a centaur. He tried the tip with his finger, and that was enough. A slight cut and the poison of the Hydra went in his body. Pholus died accidentally because of the poison of Hydra. Narrated, performed, written, recorded in many different ways, the myths about gods, heroes, supernatural beings of Greek mythology have survived for thousands of years, and they still charm and enchant us today. Greek myths are enchanting, they are charming, but mythology is chaotic, unsystematically recorded in many different versions which vary from time to time, from place to place, and for totally different reasons and purposes. There's one thing, however, in this chaotic universe of Greek myths which is always very notable. This is the notion of balance. There is no sky without earth. There is no blackness without white. There is no Zeus without Hades in the underworld. There is no evil without good, or evil without punishment. So in this universe of balance, one thing could not be missing: the reverse of beauty, monstrosity.